Avengers, assemble. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the videos we produce, and consider checking out our Patreon, which is linked in the description below. So we have more bad news coming out of the Thanksgiving holiday. So everyone is slowly getting back to work, including even in Hollywood. The strikes are coming to an end, and we're looking forward. Alas, the Marvels has failed to take off at the box office over its 5-day Thanksgiving weekend. So it didn't even crack the top 5. It earned just 6.4 million. That makes its domestic total 76 million, which means its worldwide gross is 187.1 million. And that's not even Disney's only bomb, because Wish has bombed as well, debuting at number 3 with 31 million. So Disney is setting on really, really heavy losses as we wrap up 2023, frankly. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, of course, but I don't believe Disney has any major releases left. This was it, and they've completely bombed. The audience interest isn't there, and they actually lost it significantly over the holiday break. More people saw Hunger Games and Napoleon over Thanksgiving. I mean, I guess I can get Hunger Games as a kind of family gathering film. Napoleon, really, that shocked me. That's an interesting one, but like, that's how bad Wish is. It's not reviewing well, and I think this is just a lot to be said about Disney's 100th anniversary. They're ending on a whimper. Now, obviously, we're talking about Marvel-related content. So in terms of the Marvels, I think it's a bummer. I think it's a good film. I think it's a good sequel. If you will allow me, if we look at other sequels, Thor: The Dark World, Thor: Love and Thunder, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, I mean, the Marvels hits pretty high in comparison. It's one of the better recent post-Endgame films, in my opinion. I thought it had a really good, strong cast, especially the main three. They worked really well together. There's a lot of amazing chemistry. Some of the story points lost me. I can get a little nitpicky. I can get a little comic booky. I disagreed with some of their presentations, and I feel like Dar-Benn was wasted. I think there is a really good plot in there that just they didn't take enough time to figure out, and I think that's a shame. But in terms of Marvel sequels that we've gotten, yeah, I would rather watch this than the Thor sequels. You know what I mean? Honestly, I'd rather watch this than Iron Man 3. And I think to put this as one of the worst films is unfair and disingenuous. I think it coming out at the time it did is unfortunate. I think it coming out in terms of the fuss of the writer's strike and this, the actor's strike, on top of Disney doing a terrible job of helping Marvel post-Endgame and post-COVID to really get back into the swing of things. There's so much stacked against these last few films. But again, we can look at Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which significantly, disappointed. And all it takes is, you get started on that role and people have expectations. And people's expectations will be lowered and they'll be less likely to turn out. And the general audience, especially if they get like, oh, this was bad, why should I see the next one? Because Marvel has built itself up like, oh, these are all sequels to all the other films, so it just is meant to be, this ongoing serialized story, like a comic. So when you falter, it's going to hurt what comes after. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 did exceptionally well. Not the best, but it did a lot better than the other Marvel films and other superhero films this year. I think there is a lot to say about how just dull superhero films released this year were, and even within the last couple of years, and how that has negatively impacted, other films that are coming out. You look at Flash, you look at Black Adam, you look at Blue Beetle, you look at the absolute disinterest of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. WB isn't helping the superhero game. I mean, they're putting out shit films. They're not helping in terms of enticing the general audience. WB is hurting everyone. And that's just a fact. I'm sorry, that's just an absolute fact. WB is hurting everyone in the pool. That's it. WB came in and they let Zack Snyder take a shit in the pool, and it has made everyone sick. And it's hurting Marvel, and it's going to hurt future cinematic superhero endeavors. They have to put out good product. They have to put out good stories. They have to be worthwhile to see in the theater experience and to have a theater experience. Theaters are going to change. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas predicted this 10 years ago, that with the oncoming streaming services back in the day, this is how they spoke, there would be a massive change because audiences are going to stop turning out when they're paying for a service already. They're going to be willing to wait for when those films and when those products hit. You will lose the general audience in the next couple of years. You will only have the fans who you invite, like me, or who willingly go see it. I would not have willingly gone to see Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania because it's terrible and is far, far worse than most Marvel films. I stand by that. Honestly, I would rather watch The Dark World, and that's saying something. We all know what we're talking about. So I think it sucks that Marvel is bearing the brunt of this. I think it sucks that Marvel is bearing the brunt of this when it has an amazing cast and when it's led by women. And again, it's going to therefore catch the incels, the minority, those incels who love their clickbait and love to generate rage. They're going to hang on this, and they're going to use this as an example of, see, this is what happens when you put women in films, and that's dumb because of Barbie. There is nothing that is destroying the film industry, and it's in terms of whether or not you're putting a woman on the poster or the woman is the star of the movie. And Marvel's is, of course, that lightning rod. It's going to be the lightning rod for incel asshole douchebags. And it's unfortunate because it makes it very difficult to have a real conversation. And legitimately, it was a fun film. And comparing it to other Marvel sequels and other superhero films, it is a lot better than almost everything that came out this year. It's really close between it and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 for me. Those two are really, really close, it and the Marvels. And again, Guardians and Marvels are both pulled down by me being comic booky and nitpicky. Adam Warlock is pointless in Guardians. He didn't need to be there, and the film would have been stronger for it. And Marvels, I feel like the quantum entanglement angle, I feel like there's a better story and a better approach than that. And if I had sat down, I probably could even figure it out myself, but I'm not getting paid to do that, so I don't have to. Now, I turn it over to you. One, I'm interested. How many superhero films did you see this year? Did you see them in theaters? Are you waiting on streaming? What are your thoughts on the Marvels, if you've seen it? How did you feel about it? And how would you rank it among other Marvel films and Marvel sequels, comparatively to theaters? And again, all this nonsense and all this clickbait about superhero fatigue, I don't think it's real. I think there's a fatigue on shitty movies and being like, this is coming to streaming. And I think WB is doing as much harm as anybody is in that. I think Marvel's doing harm too. I think Marvel's made weird choices in terms of the films that they've put out since the pandemic, and there's a lot that can be said about that in terms of not giving the story time to cook in the oven, as it were. But as far as you're concerned, is there superhero fatigue? Do you buy into the clickbait? Because I frankly do not. And if there is a superhero fatigue and not a shitty movie fatigue, how do you course correct, or is it just going to go the way of the Western? Again, thank you so much for watching. Above all else, and most importantly, stay safe, take care of others, and have a marvelous day. Bye, everyone.